So I think I've mentioned 1,000 times in this show that I used to be the tennis editor at Sports Illustrated for about 6 years. So tennis is one of my favorite sports, and so this is a topic that has been near and dear to my heart for the past couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, the All England Club at Wimbledon announced that for this year's tournament, because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, all Russian players, all Belarusian players will be banned from the tournament,
Mm.
kind of as an admonishment for Putin and for Belarus, which has sided with Putin and Russia with the war in Ukraine. And so this is caused a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of controversy, a lot of commentary across the sports world. When you think about the Russian players, they are very dominant in tennis. On the men's side, the number two player in the world, Daniil Medvedev, he's Russian. The number eight player in the world is Russian, Rublev. On the women's side, there are two Russian players and one player from Belarus in the top 20. So this is a big deal for these players. So I'm just curious, and with the panel, do you guys think this is fair? Or do you think that it's a little bit of hypocrisy coming out of the Queen's homeland?
Hmm.
Let-
Let's
Let's
start with
start with Rob.
yeah. Start.
Yeah, they're not the first sports association to impose bans on Russian and Belarusian players. Wimbledon was in a bad spot here because if they were to admit Russian players, they would be at odds with their national government. If they banned Russian players, then they're at odds with the tennis's governing body. And at the end of the day, I would rather piss off Scott Lloyd and Daniil Medvedev than Boris Johnson.
Hmm. Interesting.
All right,
Mari.
Mario.
So Lizzie, you definitely have a lot of knowledge on this topic, I'm gonna say. I'm not a sports enthusiast. I don't even know Wimbledon that well, but what I guess for me came up is I just thought like it seems like a technical response to a more complicated problem, right? Like
Mm,
Mhm.
and it also felt like the players are not the ones that need to be punished. It's really the country itself, right? Like that it's I don't know. To me it was a deflection of where it should be, where the energy should be of like what should you actually ban and what should you speak out against and try to work towards rather than it's just the player. So I think for me, that's how I looked at it.
And I see it as though, this isn't the Olympics. This isn't just because someone is from a country or was born in a country or even represents a country doesn't necessarily mean that they should be banned. It's just a little bit. It's like I say, it's different than the Olympics where you are representing the country or the country sends representative or supports representatives. This Wimbledon and tennis is a bit different. So, and you know, I don't know. I'm gonna leave it at that. Go ahead, Lizzie.
I was just gonna say, you brought up the Olympics. We just finished the Winter Olympics in China, um, and then um, and then we had the Summer Olympics in Tokyo. And for both, right, Russia was banned technically for doping. However, the athletes were allowed to compete under the ROC, the
Hmm.
Russian Olympic Committee, still
Hmm.
using the Russian name, but not the Russian flag. I think we're
Yeah.
splitting hairs here. I think we're splitting hairs here. A lot of these players don't even live in the country of their birth anymore.
Right.
They live elsewhere in
Hmm.
Europe, or some live in the United States. Um, I think I would ask Wimbledon, I would ask the All England Club, does this really affect Russia in the way you think it would? Is this really bothering or hurting Putin? Or is it really hurting the players, not just the Russian players or the Belarusian players, but also the other players? Because technically it affects everyone's ranking.
Hmm.
You lose
Mhm.
points if you don't play in a tournament. So it has the effects of this are far reaching. So it'll be interesting to see what the other tournaments do. The next Grand Slam before Wimbledon, we have the French Open,
Actually,
and France has not banned anyone, not even Djokovic.
no.
So we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. The French Open starts in a few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's look at these comments online. Jacqueline Robinson says, "Glad you mentioned the Olympics. Putin just rewarded the young Russian female skater who was used." Hmm. What happened with that,
Oh,
Liz? A
that's the
little more details
15-year-old
about that?
that was doping.
Right. How was she rewarded? I'm not aware of that. You know?
Sorry, my voice. So he appeared with her, I believe, on Russian national television last week. She's been given some actual monetary rewards. He has basically, deemed her a national hero in Russia, um, because she still, competed and she did not denounce her country, even though we know that there was some shady stuff going on in terms of who she was getting the drugs from, right? Again, she's 15, 16 years old. She's not out on the street getting these performance enhancing drugs on her own. All of that came from the Russian Olympic Committee. But she never sold her country out. And so this is what she gets from Putin in return. The tennis players, on the other hand, for the most part, have all denounced what's been going on in Russia and Ukraine. So again, it's a very complicated situation. I'm not pretending to have all of the answers. But I find it interesting that, England, of all of the nations in the world, one of the most imperialist nations on the
Hmm.
planet, even Rob's country still has the Mother Queen on his currency.
We
They
do, we
want
do.
they want to, ban people and penalize people for war. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
And and doesn't it also set like a precedent though? If we can do this with this country and these
Hmm.
countries, like what other
Mm.
countries are we going
And
to
we're
be
not
able to
really
do?
Or
talking about the
If
other
we can,
countries like
like
China.
China.
I
Like,
mean,
why was there no ban on China? Communist China, country of 1,000,001 human rights violations against its citizens. You have people who have issues with Israel. I know Israel is an
Israel,
ally
and there's a
to the
nuclear
U.S.,
country as well. I mean,
but I'm sure the Palestinians are sitting there wondering, well, how come the Israeli players haven't been banned?
hmm
There's a lot that goes into this.
yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, to talk about China, we're talking about forced sterilizations, abortions, the largest scale detention of an ethnic
Female
group since
infanticide,
World War II. I
Hong
mean,
Uyghur
Kong, what they've done to
genocide.
Tibet. Yeah, lots of
Uyghurs.
stuff, lots of issues,
I mean,
lots of
it's
issues.
like, yeah,
But
pretty rough.
I mean, they basically kidnapped a player last year who still has been, kind of banned and not allowed to speak about what happened to her. She tweeted out that she had been abused by someone in the Chinese government, right?
Oh,
And
I remember that.
once she
Tennis
tweeted that
player.
out, she
Hmm.
disappeared.
Yep.
She disappeared.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then all of
We
a
haven't even heard from
sudden,
her much since.
we've heard from her, but they've been very muted,
Muted.
publicized statements,
Yep.
that doesn't even sound like her.
Now,
But yet they're still loud.
one other comment that I think is valuable. Mike Winter says, kind of disagrees with what we're saying. You have to incentivize the players to speak out against the war, so Putin stops the madness.
Hmm.
But some of the players have spoken out against the
Some,
war. I mean, we're not talking about like
if you
there's
punish them, they'll
one,
talk more. I think.
but
But
one,
if
all
these
of
are
the
the
players,
people's, if these are the Russian people's heroes, and the Russian people's heroes are now denouncing the war, it does carry weight over
Does.
time. It
Yeah.
absolutely does.
Yeah, he makes a
but
good
you
point
also
here.
have to, but you all know because you also have to think about a lot of these Russian players still have families in Russia. And if they go speaking out publicly against Putin, they're not in Russia, but their families still are.
Mari, I
So their
think you're trying
families
to
are
say
the
something.
ones, their families are the ones that are going to, be penalized for that.
Mari, you were trying to say something. You got 15 seconds. We're going to shut it down after
No, I think actually it's I'm going to pass. I was going to
this.
say something and then I think it went away with what the comments were. So like
All right. So, is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
It's true. It's
It's the truth,
shenanigans.
man.
I'm going with
It's
shenanigans. Some
shenanigans.
shenanigans going on. They need to. I mean, I'm still going to say Russia and Ukraine are not the only conflict out there. There's other countries doing some really bad shit.
Heck
and to
yes.
me it poses the question of just like is it really about Putin or is it about
It's
something like I just
money.
feel like yeah, like it's
It's
always money
money
resources
and
like
oil
when we
and
say
natural
things are about
gas.
politics,
And
it's really
nuclear
about
weapons.
economics, right?
And nuclear
and
weapons.
control
Money,
and power,
oil,
right?
and nuclear weapons.
All right.
And
Which is
nuclear
money too, to some degree, right? Like that's money. That's
Control.
control over
Mhm.
weaponry.
Yep.
It's death also. Instant death.
All right. Let's get to our second quick fire.
Brap, brap.
All right, this is fun. Transformers star Megan Fox surprised everyone in January when she revealed that she and recording artist Machine Gun Kelly drank each other's blood as part of their engagement. In a recent interview with British Glamour, she provided more detail. She says, "It's just a few drops. We consume each other's blood for ritual purpose. I read tarot cards, I'm into astrology, and I do rituals on new moons and full moons and all these things. Also, I should mention where it's a ritual for her, she says Machine Gun Kelly is a little more haphazard. She says where he's willing to just cut his chest open and be like, take my soul, in her words. But there's more to this. She says that she believes she manifested him, created him, because, quote, he's literally my exact physical type that I've been manifesting since I was 4. And also I'm also 4 years older than him. So I think I made him. Who knows what he would have looked like or been like if it wasn't for me? So my question, what would you do if your significant other had the taste for blood and claimed to have manifested you? I'm going to start with Liz on this.
That's what I would do.
You just you wouldn't say a thing, huh?
I mean,
Look,
you know
look at
what?
him crazy.
I they're adults, right? They can do whatever they want to do. I'm not going to knock them. I mean, would I drink someone's blood? No. But I mean, if you think about it in the scheme of things, well, one, I wouldn't drink anyone's blood because there's viral hepatitis. There are all kinds of things that you could get, from doing that. But if you think about it in the scheme of things, and if you have very sensitive ears, I suggest you close them right now. But you have people who perform fellatio and swallow. So if you could swallow semen,
Whoa.
you could drink some blood.
I mean, that's a good
It's
point.
just not.
That's not a bad
It's
point,
just,
actually.
it's
It's
just not
bodily
something
fluids.
that I would do. Or
All right,
even
Robbie.
saliva, if you think about it. Folks swapping saliva all the time.
That's true. Right, Robbie?
All right. So first off, Transformers star, how dare you? Um, but when I read the article, it's only a few drops of blood, and it's being used ritualistically. So the headline really blows that out of proportion, and I don't think that there's anything weird about spiritual slash mystical slash shamanistic traditions. Humans have been doing this shit for a long time. Now, if someone had said, "Hey, I manifested you when I was 4," I would have said, "You had really low standards when you were 4. You're a messed up kid." That's just, yeah, that shit's not right, man.
That's crazy. Let's take a few more minutes. I know we're out of time, but go ahead, Mario. Go ahead.
I just like I found it hilarious, right? Like and for two reasons. One of which is just like I think it's one of those things where and I believe in spirituality and I've been in this spiritual journey and I've been learning a lot about spirituality, but I think it's like one of those entertainment sake spirituality moments, right? Like let's take something that is is genuinely what people believe and now it's this kind of like I don't know. When I read it, she was like, "I do tarot, and I got this and I got that, and I'm manifesting him from when I was a kid." And I'm like, that I don't know. It just felt like it was kind of a dramatic way to talk about something that actually does have
Hmm.
meaning for some people, right? Like I think
Hmm.
those rituals, right? Like, and there are communities and there are cultures that do use blood in probably in very specific spiritual places, but spirituality is a really like intentional personal thing. It's
Personal
not
thing.
something for headlines, right? Like it's just very different and I felt like I couldn't take it seriously. And honestly, as I watched you read the headline, Neil, I was watching everybody's faces. I was like, nobody could keep a straight face while listening to this headline, right? And this story. Because it's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of like the next fad. That's what
Yeah.
it feels like, right? And I was thinking back to like, remember when Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton
Hmm.
had the vials of blood,
The vials,
right? Like
yeah.
Look at
just the
me, look at
dramatic,
me,
That's really what it's
look at
about. I think
me,
that's what it's about too.
look at me, look at me.
First off,
right,
Because you
right.
I just want to say I think I may have manifested my wife too. You know, we basically have the same difference in age. You know, as these two, and she's my exact body type preference, and I'm positive. I'm gonna tell her tonight. I think I may have
Yeah.
manifested her.
so
I
so
created her with my
if Neo
mind
doesn't
when I was
if Neo
when I
doesn't
was
appear on
when I
the
was
show
5 years
next week,
old.
y'all, if Neo doesn't appear on the show next week, y'all, you will know why. Mm.
What and Neil, is that going to be before or after the blood exchanges? Like,
Yeah, right, right. We're gonna. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I thought the blood thing was not that bad. It was this manifestation thing that had me just. I was like, really, really.
it's
You know, people say
what
any old
it
thing.
says.
Yeah, that was all right. Let me get to these comments online because there were some funny ones. All right. Let's see. We got Brian. Mike Winter says Brian Austin Green is probably breathing a sigh of relief because she
Boo,
seems to
boo,
be a
boo,
lot.
boo, boo,
That was
boo,
her
boo
ex,
on
Brian
Brian
Austin Green.
Austin Green, who was abusive to her both physically and mentally. She has spoken about it on several occasions. She's the one who actually filed for divorce the first time, and she was underage when they first started dating.
Okay.
So boo.
All right, so we're not
Mhm.
going. We're not. We're not buying into that comment. All right.
No.
So Jacqueline Robbins says, "Why are mentally ill, attention-seeking people allowed to marry and procreate?"
Why should they be? I mean, you know.
Paulette Bertrand said, "Good question." She also said that she would walk away. I see your full stop comment. Um, okay. And if she lets you in the Paulette Bertrand says if she lets you in, Neo.
Yeah, y'all ain't
Yeah,
going for
I don't
any of
think my
that
wife is buying
foolishness.
into that. I'm gonna tell her anyway.
No.
Watch. I'm gonna tell her. I'll let you know next
So
week
who's
what
gonna
she
be
says.
hosting the show next week? Who's gonna be hosting the show
Right?
next week?
Right?
All right. Is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
Oh my God.
No, man.
This is for attention.
No.
It's all shenanigans. This is all about attention. I
I
mean,
mean,
she
think
might
about it.
No.
actually, she might actually feel that way though. She might. I mean,
But who goes around telling people that, making those statements public? Like, you and Rob are married. Maria was married. Like, were you so open about what goes on in your personal relationship?
No. No.
not that open.
Oh, well, I don't know.
All
I
right.
wrote a whole blog about it.
She did, right? Yeah, Mario. Yeah, Mario's the exception. All right. All right, before we get into our main topics, I'll remind you to check out our after show. The conversations can be intense, fun, or sometimes just chill. Here's a clip from the after show the last time Mario joined us. Here we're talking about the infamous slap and Will Smith having a generally positive persona before the slap.
For years. What are you
Bill Cosby had an amazing public persona,
Oh.
but what he was doing behind the scenes is not the same. So for us to just sit here and be like,
Bill Cosby had been accused of abusing women in the 80s and in the 90s and in the 2000s, paid tons of money in lawsuits. Do your research, brother. Do your research.
So, Lizzie, I think I agree with everything you said in terms of like, I agree. Like, I think that you can't look at one without the other. I totally agree with
That's
that.
my
And
only
what to
point. That's
me,
my only
and
point.
to me, and to me, I think though, to me, when I see that, what I think is that's the difference between someone who addresses a trauma and someone who lets that trauma
Suppresses.
continue without addressing it. And then, honestly, I think this is where it's not in a vacuum. He's married to a narcissistic person, which adds
Here
to
we
that
go.
trauma,
We're
right?
not going to
There's-
do the Jada hate. We're not going to do the Jada hate. We're not going to do the Jada hate today.
all right.
We're
So
not going to do it.
that was
I'm
what
not here
that
for
was
it.
a fun that was an intense fun conversation. So download all of the previous after show episodes, subscribe to Truth Lies Shenanigans anywhere you listen to podcasts, or go to tlspod.com. All right.